All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the No Postgame Show. Recapping the Saints' victory over the Patriots. They beat the Pats 34 to nothing. I don't know if anybody had that on their bingo card that the Saints would put up 34 points this week. Let's just start with general takeaways from the game. Patty, if you want to go first, maybe tell me what stood out to you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the game, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little concerned. You saw my rant on the podcast not too long ago about wide receivers being all over each other. I think it was the first drive of the game. You had, I think it was Thomas down the seam, and it seemed like him and Olave were just too tight up the corner, up the side right there. And I was like, man, are we like all over each other again? What's happening? Did we fix anything? Um, but after that, I mean, Turan gets the big pick. Things seem to turn around. In my brain, it was just going to be an ugly game, but the offense was just efficient enough. I'm not ready to crown them yet or say they fixed things, but the O-line looks better. I think they got like incrementally better in the areas they needed to, but they're not like night and day better at anything. It's just enough to where if the defense plays well, it should be complimentary football, which is exciting. I didn't have the shutout on my bingo card, but apparently Mac Jones and the Patriots offense are just that bad. Not that the Saints defense isn't good, but it's just, it's so hard to pitch a shutout in the NFL these days. So, yeah, that's what I got.
What you got, Jason?
Absolutely. I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of that, like the shutout's not common. So it was really fun to see that happen. It's a real good confidence booster for the defense. We know how good they are, and it obviously led into more successful offensive play. Because they kind of fed off of that. Every time the Pats offense was getting on the field, they weren't able to produce anything. So I felt like it was a lot less pressure on the Saints offense to have to go out there drive after drive and have to perform to their peak. But as Patty said, I mean, they were just efficient today, and it's something that hopefully they can carry on over continuing into the season.
Yeah, I'm with y'all. Part of me, I'm with Patty on not really wanting to crown anybody yet because like they definitely looked better. The play calling was better to an extent, but I don't know how much of it. I didn't realize the Pats were this bad. Like I knew they weren't good, but I didn't know that they were this bad. So I'm not sure how much of it was them just being bad, or how much of it is the Saints, being good. Um, I think this is the one thing that I want to take away from it is, Derek Carr didn't play perfect, but I think it's safe to say it was his best game as a Saint. I know he had better numbers in week one, but I think this is the best to me, at least since that he's looked. Um, it, I still don't understand the wide receivers, just the routes they're running. Like you said, it's still glaring issues, but it's a step in the right direction, and I think that's the main takeaway from the whole game. Good to see the defense kind of play like this. I think they needed that after this week. Do you think that they're back to what they were like the first 3 weeks of the season, or is this the Patriots just being that bad?
I think it's a little of both. I think the Saints defense was always going to be good. Last week they had a little hiccup.
Right.
They had some injuries. Defensive backs have been hurt. You get a Debo back though. That's a big win right there. You're still a little light on the back end, and the combination of facing a team like the Patriots who aren't good on offense with getting a Debo back, your defense can kind of come back into its own. You're going to get a lot more pass rush. So, I think it's a combination of the two. And I think they'll be fine moving forward. You just got to play complementary football. It's gonna come down to the offense. The defense is going to be fine as long as they stay healthy all year. I mean, you pitch a shutout. I don't care how bad the other team is. Like, you got to be good to pitch a shutout. It's the NFL.
Yeah, we've seen the Saints offense be bad, and they still haven't been shut out. So,
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that does still kind of bring up alarms on the offensive side, or really just all around. We're still going to be one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. I mean, you got wide receivers false starting consistently, and that doesn't make sense to me. A wide receiver should not be jumping off sides. That's just sloppy.
Yeah, the sad thing about that is I wrote about this last year when we were going through all the struggles. That it's just a thing of Dennis Allen teams. He's consistently in the most penalized teams. like, people are going to overlook it a lot this week, I think, because they put up 34 points and won. But it's a consistent issue, and like it's gonna make a difference in a game that's not 34-0. You know what I mean? Like we've already seen it happen, whether it's this year or last year. It's something that needs to be addressed, and I'm hoping that it just doesn't get overlooked by more than just the fans, like by the coaching staff and everything. Hopefully they still address it, and I don't I don't know what else to really say about a 34-0 game. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
I was gonna say, Jason, if there's one thing that stuck out to you that you could point to from this game, what would it be?
I mean, it was just really, for me, it was defensively how they got after the ball. Because I think we won the turnover battle, obviously, but I think we forced like 3 takeaways in the game. So getting after the ball, and then I saw a lot better defensive pressure up front. So even though Mac Jones has not had the greatest past couple of games, it was still awesome to see the defensive front get after him and still put him under duress for the majority of the game he was in there.
Yeah, they got back to that Saints defense that when they're at their best, it's that defense that just shuts down every running game. You got 2 running backs that Ramondre and Zeke each had 8 carries, and neither one of them had more than 25 yards. So, I mean, you're shutting them down. You're making people one-dimensional, and with the Debo back, especially, our secondary is so good. If you force teams to throw on us, and you got Granderson getting pressure like that, Passanio got some pressure. I think even Cam was making some plays this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and I mean,
tying them up like that,
with the
go ahead.
Speaking on the penalties going along with the complimentary football, you also have to be able to play clean football. I think early on in the game they had showed a graphic that even as good as the Saints defensive backfield has been, we still had the most pass interference calls against us in the league. But I don't think that we pulled one today on us. So that's good to see that we were playing clean football in coverage.
Yeah.
No, they did get a Debo. They did get a Debo for one. That's actually right after the stat came up. Yeah, but it was on a catch, and then we challenged it, I believe. But I mean,
that's a weird challenge.
It is what it is. You know what stuck out to me though? Very small detail. I just love that offensively we somewhat found an identity, right? Like I'm complaining about people being all over each other, and last week I complained about the play calling, which everybody has been. We ran the ball. Even if it wasn't working at times, we just ran the damn ball. Like, that does so much for your offense to have that as your identity. If your defense is playing well and you just consistently commit to running the ball, your linemen get more confidence, which then in turn makes your play calling easier. Like it just gives you something to work off of as opposed to just going out there and winging it and coming up with some of these, off the wall plays that Pete was doing the last couple of weeks. Now, I didn't necessarily like that Camaro was the one slamming into the wall at the end of the game. 12 plays in a row or whatever it was. But, they committed to the run game, which I really think did a lot for the offense.
I think that's kind of where you miss Jamal. I feel like in that situation, it probably would have been Jamal getting those ones to slam into the wall, like you said, at the end of the game, right? But I guess you could do it with Taysom right now, but it's either him or Kendra right now, and I don't think you want Kendra being the one to do that.
Well, I think to close it out, they really had Taysom and Kamara in there just kind of doing that read option, and it just ended up going to Kamara a lot. But, I mean, I love it, personally.
Yeah,
Not Kamara taking hits, but,
Yeah, I mean, he's speaking of the run game. Like, it wasn't – I don't know how effective it was, right? He only averaged like 3.5 yards a carry. But like you said, you just stick with it. I mean, you end up with 80. You almost end up with 100 yards from him. You have over 100 yards rushing. Like you're gonna win a lot of games that way. And it doesn't always have to be pretty. We don't need these. You don't always need these big plays, but you see it from him. Like there's a couple times where Alvin hits a wall and then somehow he shoots out 7 yards down the field, right? So you just stick with it, like you're saying, and especially with the way Derek Carr's been playing, it hasn't been the best. So you have to be a run first team. They have to. You run like you say it all the time when we talk about the Saints. Tulane, it doesn't matter. You run to set up the pass. It's just a simple concept. You're right. So, yeah. I don't really have all that much else to talk about. I guess we'd be remiss if we don't congratulate AK for becoming the all-time touchdown leader. That's feels like it's way overdue. He hasn't had a touchdown since Christmas Eve of last year.
Well, snaps for AK.
Yeah,
we'll congratulate him.
Yeah, I don't.
He also, I got to give him a little credit. I mean, this is the second year in a row where he's come out, had some really poor comments about the team and the way we're performing, and then we come out and respond with a shutout win. It speaks to his leadership and how people buy in the stuff he has to say, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's needed, right? Like,
yeah,
that's his role now. He's the vet. Somebody's got to say something, and then I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't have much else to really talk about. There's not really an exciting game. Even though you put up 34 points, it wasn't an exciting 34 points.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the game was a good game, and I felt like the Saints needed it. And kind of touch on some of the divisional games going on. We did have the Falcons. They did walk off the Texans with a field goal at the end of the game. They pick up the 21-19 win at home. That's bodes well for the Saints in a sense, I guess, because we do have a trip to Houston next. And then the Panthers, it's going to be a long season for them. They got smashed by the Lions today, 42-24. The Lions are here. The Lions are going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, the whole Bryce Young thing, man. We went into length on our pod, me and Patty. It doesn't feel like he's ready for this right now. I still think he can be a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't look good for him. So I'm with you. It's going to be a long season for him and Carolina if they stick with that.
Yeah.
You know who does look ready? Not to cut back into this or go back to this game. CJ Stroud looks ready, man.
He really
the only
does.
reason it's shocking to me that Atlanta won that game is CJ Stroud had just made a massive play the drive before, which looked like had won the game for the Texans. So to hear that the Falcons came back and won on a closeout field goal, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think
Stroud did everything he could.
I want to say I heard he's like one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the league, and he still looks as good as he does, which is, I don't know if that speaks to, and before the season, everybody was saying he didn't have weapons at all to throw to, and it doesn't seem to be bothering him. I don't know if it speaks to the whole like the size thing where he can just take the pressures better than Bryce Young. I don't know, because it's the same situation really. Bryce Young's got better weapons, if you ask me, than CJ Stroud. So.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, looking ahead to next week, that's going to be a really good matchup with the Texans wide receivers. How's the Saints defense going to be able to get after Stroud, and what kind of coverages are we going to see from the Saints defensive backfield? As the standings sit right now, Atlanta and New Orleans keep pace with Tampa Bay as they're on their bye week. So Tampa Bay stays in first place at 3-1. Atlanta and New Orleans trail behind, both at 3-2.
Yeah, like you said, we got Texans next week. That's a good game after this one, I think, to have not a real shouldn't be that tough of a challenge for the Saints offense again. But you got them, and then it's a good game to have right before you play the Jags. That's going to be a test on both sides of the ball. So
for sure. Jacksonville, I believe they picked up the win in London today against Buffalo.
Yep.
Sure did. That was a shocker.
We don't have to keep dragging it out. No reason to keep going if we don't have that much to talk about. Stay tuned for. I think Jason, you'll probably put out an article, I'm sure.
Okay.
Jamie usually puts something out too, and then Patty and I will talk about it on the pod this week a little more in depth. And that's it, man. It's a beautiful day outside. Everybody go enjoy your Sundays. Catch these afternoons. What's the game? What's the night game tonight? Anybody know?
Cowboys and Niners.
Oh yeah. So go prepare for that. That's one to watch for sure. But that's all I got. If y'all got anything else, shout it out, or if not, let's wrap it up.
Smash burgers and bourbon. That's it, baby.
There you go.
All right.
All right, y'all. Catch y'all next time. Later.
Bye.